Greetings, my excellent friends. Welcome to everyone to the Phoenix Report. I'm Jack Connor, and this video is in the next installment and part of a series of what I like to call a fireside pitch, in which I share with you some creative storytelling ideas I have for a particular series or franchise. Now, I've done many movie reviews on this channel, but I figured I'd challenge myself a little bit by trying to come up with a story idea of my own, or at least offer my ideas for an upcoming project. I try to think if I was in charge of rebooting or writing or remaking a popular movie or TV series, what would I do? Because it's very easy to be an armchair quarterback and critique something that's already there. But what would I do if I was the one in charge? Well, today we're about to find out because this is a video that I had actually been planning on doing for a while. Anyone who knows me knows that I am a massive Bill and Ted fan, and ever since I saw Bill and Ted Face the Music back in 2020. I don't think anyone assumed that there might possibly be a fourth Bill and Ted movie, given how much time had passed between Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey and Bill and Ted Face the Music, which was almost 30 years. Everyone kind of assumed, all right, they went back, they did it, that would probably be it for Bill and Ted. It's only been a few days as of this recording, but on Monday, January 15th, 2024, Alex Winter did an interview on the Sarah O'Connell Show, indicating that there was a strong idea for a fourth Bill and Ted movie and that a script is being written. I assume it's being written by the writers and creators Ed Solomon and Chris Matheson. Now, I don't know whether Alex Winter or Keanu Reeves will have any input into the script or the story idea, although Winter indicated that it would have to be a story that they are all in favor of. I don't know what sort of input Alex or Keanu would have on the script or the story, but I imagine if anyone knows these characters inside and out, besides Ed and Chris, the writers, it would be the two actors that brought that iconic duo to life. The important thing to keep in mind is that just because a script is being written, that does not necessarily mean that the movie has been greenlit yet. Bill and Ted Face the Music took over a decade to be made, from initial conception, going as far back as 2005, 2008, until it finally got released in 2020. So it took a long time to get that going. Everything from conception to finalizing a script to being funded and greenlit by a studio to actual production. The movie's budget ended up being about $25 million, and its worldwide box office take was a meager $6.3 million. Now, keep in mind, this was released during the summer of 2020, during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic. While it was being released theatrically, it was also released at the same time as a movie video on demand, like on Amazon Prime and some other platforms where you could rent it for about $20. And through all the digital release, all the digital rentals, it grossed about $32 million. So, which isn't too bad. I mean, it did match the production budget, but you also have to take into account advertising and things like that, which are probably around the same cost as production. So, when you take all that into account, I don't know if Bill and Ted Face the Music actually broke even. In fact, I'm willing to bet that it probably lost a little bit of money. But look, despite all that, nobody would love to see another Bill and Ted movie more than me. Bill S. Preston, Esquire, and Ted Theodore Logan have been two of my favorite fictional characters since I was 6 years old. And Face the Music was a fun movie. It wasn't perfect by any means. But I was very glad that it got made, and I had a lot of fun with it. I did feel like the end of the movie was very sudden, like they sort of ran out of money towards the end, and there wasn't really much of an epilogue to really wrap the story up, in my opinion. It felt a little bit anticlimactic, but unfortunately, that has been the case for all three Bill and Ted films, where they would have alternate endings that might be written, or in some case they might film an alternate ending, but unfortunately that doesn't make the final cut of either movie. And unfortunately, those deleted scenes aren't available anywhere. I haven't been able to find them. But I think ever since I saw the third movie, I had an idea about what a fourth movie might be, and since it looks like that might actually happen, I don't know if it's going to be any of my ideas, but I figured I'd share some of the ideas that I had in mind about what the two great ones should be up to in if we were ever to revisit their story. I think it could be a lot of fun. Um, it's one of those things where I think about first and foremost, if you're going to justify doing another one of these movies, you don't want to repeat or copy what has been done before. Um, Take the second movie, for example, Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey. That movie was very unique in that it took a completely unexpected turn. It focused less on, the time travel shenanigans from the first movie, and instead it explored death and the afterlife. They literally died and went to both heaven and hell and then came back. So it was definitely a different turn. And Face the Music, the third movie, that certainly had a combination of both those things, and including there were some elements of the multiverse here and there. Now, for a fourth movie, I'm thinking if it were up to me, I would lean into sort of the science fiction element of the franchise. Um, for example, at the end of the first movie, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, there was a scene where Rufus explained to Bill, Ted, Joanna, and Elizabeth that Wild Stallions' music not only brought about peace on Earth, but would, and I think that the quote was, it would align the planets into universal harmony, allowing meaningful contact with extraterrestrial beings. I'm paraphrasing that, of course, but with all this in mind, I think it makes perfect sense for a fourth Bill and Ted movie to be about Bill and Ted being responsible for helping to make the first contact with an alien species on Earth. Um, at the end of Face the Music, for example, we saw the Wild Stallions under the direction of Billy and Thea. They performed a song that united humanity throughout space and time to prevent the fabric of reality from inexplicably collapsing on itself and erasing all of existence. We never really did find out what happened immediately after they performed the song. The movie just ended right there. Um, Now, putting any time paradoxes aside, I'd like to think that this resulted in the Wild Stallions reuniting full time with their classic lineup and once again becoming the biggest band in the world. The band's lineup, from what I always understood, was Bill and Ted on guitars, Joanna on drums, Elizabeth on keys, and the Grim Reaper, Death, on bass. I still don't know who in the band, who their lead singer would be, or if they have a singer. I always assumed, maybe everyone in the band might get a turn to sing. Kind of. Clearly, Billy and Thea, they've showed a natural talent for music production, for composition and arranging. So it makes sense that they would also be a highly in-demand production team. They would help their family's band connect with the younger generation and others. I could see a montage of the Wild Stallions going on a massive world tour, meeting with world leaders and other, VIPs across the globe. That would be a lot of fun to see. But with the Wild Stallions beginning to fill Rufus's prophecy, it makes sense that their music would somehow be intercepted by beings from other planets. Which, by the way, interesting side note, we never did find out what became of what happened to Station after the events of Bogus Journey. We don't really know what happened to him or them because they kind of split in two. Um, but I would have Bill and Ted make contact with some sort of agent or promoter, like a really fast talking music industry type, but happens to be from another planet, who proposes that the Wild Stallions become the first ever rock band to go on an interplanetary tour, across the galaxy. Along the way, I think it could be very entertaining to see the band going into space to other planets and maybe getting in the middle of some sort of war or conflict with other planets, and maybe even discovering new primitive civilizations along the way, sort of like sort of like an episode of Star Trek, maybe. Maybe we could even see Missy once again getting married, but this time to some sort of alien warlord. There's so many possibilities you could do there with the Wild Stallions bringing the power of rock and roll to planets across the galaxy. In fact, the director of Bill and Ted Face the Music was a guy named Dean Parasot. I don't know how you pronounce his name, but He was the man who directed the movie Galaxy Quest, which is a classic sci-fi comedy, really great movie. So if he were to return to direct, I'm sure Dean Parisot would be an excellent. I think he would be an excellent choice to direct a movie about Bill and Ted going into space. That's what I would want to see happen. Another possibility, if they want to go this route, would maybe be another time travel heavy story, which could maybe explain what happened between Bogus Journey and Face the Music. Which is, maybe it could explain why the Wild Stallions had such a career nosedive after a few albums in, which is what they told us at the beginning of the third movie. In Bogus Journey, Denomalos altered the timeline by sending the evil Bill and Ted robots back to 1991 to kill the real Bill and Ted. And despite Bill and Ted actually being killed, they returned back to life with the help of Station and Death, and then ended up playing a concert that was broadcast to the entire world. Now, I don't know if this means that Chuck Denomalos actually changed history, but that seems likely. So, what if there was a timeline in which the Wild Stallions maintained their success without any intervention? Um, Death most likely would never have joined their band, so maybe they would have had a different bass player. Would Billy and Thea even have been born in this new timeline? You could explore what would happen. You could also explore like what would have happened had Rufus not intervened with their history report in high school during the events of Excellent Adventure. What would have happened if Ted ended up being sent off to military school in Alaska? There's been a meme going around for years, joking that the John Wick movies were what happened. They were about what happened if Ted went to military school. Um, so, I mean, personally, I think Bill and Ted going into space is probably a better story idea. With keeping the time travel to a minimum. I'm sure you could have some appearances from their friends from the future, like Kelly, Rufus's daughter, and Dennis Caleb McCoy, who was really funny. Maybe some historical figures too. Who knows? But I know since Death, the Grim Reaper, is once again in the realm of the living. I would love to see Bill and Ted ask Death who has been taking over his responsibilities in the afterlife. Because his job as the Grim Reaper is to escort the souls of the recently deceased to the next life. I would love to see Death's answer to be, him to say something to the effect of, "Oh, I got a friend of mine to take care of it," and it would be, maybe it would be like, a legendary rock star who is no longer with us. Obviously with an impersonator. I could think of like Jimi Hendrix or John Lennon or Jim Morrison, George Harrison, Freddie Mercury, Stevie Ray Vaughan, Kurt Cobain, Lemmy Kilmister, Ronnie James Dio, or maybe even Taylor Hawkins. I feel like I feel like he would be cool with it. I think like he would love that. I feel like that would be a fun little tribute to some of those rock legends who are no longer with us. Speaking of Death, by the way, the Grim Reaper, he is absolutely one of my favorite characters in the whole series. He is so funny. I think the movie can only benefit with having more of him in it. That's my opinion. Hopefully, William Sadler would be up for it. Um, One thing I do want to address is the controversy surrounding the use of the characters Billy and Thea. Um, I can't speak to what was in Ed and Chris's minds as far as any ulterior motives that they may or may not have had with the characters, because I know they were accused of that by a lot of people online. Um, I'm not looking to get into some long, drawn out commentary on whatever culture war or socio-political views that are out there. There are a lot of channels that do that. You can go watch theirs. Um, I will say that I did enjoy the characters of Billy and Thea. I thought that Samara Weaving and Bridget Lundy Payne both did a pretty good job of bringing those characters to life. I don't think they necessarily had that natural charisma that Alex and Keanu did at that age, but I thought that they did a good job. Um, much like their fathers, Billy and Thea were very kind and endearing characters, and they seemed to genuinely get along well with their parents. I'm glad they didn't go the route of them being like rebellious teens who didn't like their parents. We've seen that happen a lot. I'm glad they didn't go with that trope. Um, I didn't particularly like the fact that, and spoilers, by the way, if you haven't seen Bill and Ted Face the Music, I didn't really like the fact that Billy and Thea ended up being the ones who wrote the song that ended up saving the world at the end, because that was supposed to be Bill and Ted's thing. Um, although I like the idea of them becoming music producers and working with their family's band, I thought that was pretty cool. Um, there's been some talk of Billy and Thea possibly having their own spin-off movie or, maybe going off on their own adventures, which I'm not necessarily opposed to that. But I think if you're going to make a fourth Bill and Ted movie, the focus needs to be on Bill and Ted. There's been this trend recently in Hollywood franchises where you take these older legacy characters and basically have them be deconstructed or one-upped or effectively replaced by these newer, younger, and, in my opinion, less interesting characters. You know, Look, regardless of how you feel about it, it's been happening in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, in the Star Wars franchise, in movies like Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, and many others. It was supposed to happen in the DC films up until the recent regime change there, but that's a long story. That's for another video for another time. Now, look, regardless of how you feel about some of these changes, we know they're there. We've all seen them. We all know what's happening, and this is why these franchises that I'm talking about have been losing money hand over fist, and they've been losing fan support in recent years. You know, Now with all that in mind, with all that out of the way, I have no problem with Billy and Thea being in the fourth Bill and Ted movie, as long as they're not in it at Bill and Ted's expense. I think that's a very important thing to keep in mind. So as long as Bill and Ted are still the stars of their own movies, then that's all I care about personally. I mean, then yeah, have the other characters in there as well. This isn't a male female thing either. Let's not forget that Joanna and Elizabeth are in the Wild Stallions as well, and in my opinion, they haven't been featured or fleshed out nearly enough. I mean, they recast them with different actresses every movie for some reason. Um, so I'd like to see their story get told a little bit more. Um, I'd also like to find out what really happened to Bill and Ted's biological mothers. We never knew really what happened to them, but that's another fan theory for another time. But anyways, what do you guys think? What would you want to see in a fourth Bill and Ted movie? Let me know in the comments. Make sure you follow me on Twitter, X, and Instagram at jackxconnor. Like me on Facebook at facebook.com/jackconnormusic. Make sure you hit like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and if you're on YouTube, or hit subscribe and leave a review if you're on whatever podcast platform you're listening to. Make sure you can always email me at jackconnorpodcast@gmail.com, or you can tweet me with the hashtag Phoenix Report. Wherever you're listening to this, make sure you hit like, subscribe, and all that stuff. You can leave a comment and go back and listen to some of the other episodes. I actually did a video a while back on what I would do for like a Wild Stallions like band documentary. I always thought that was a funny idea. It would probably never get made, but I would love to see that happen. That was something I really thought would be a lot of fun. So I'd been meaning to do this for a while. But thank you guys for tuning in. And as always, be excellent to each other. I'll see you later.